Yeah, what's up? Yeah, what's it? Yeah, hear me? Yeah, I hear you. You hear me? Yeah, there are people authority, listen to the doctor, whatever. It's not doing research on research, that goes to the doctor, that, everything you said should be accepted without any question. But else, yeah, exactly. So, I'm just going to judge you, yes.
Anyway,
We're starting now. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Talking about that, it's just the funniest things that you see on Facebook. Like, and I've reposted this before because something I had posted, and I forget what it was about, but you don't see it until like you go back and see comments on it or something like that. Even if you get comments on it, right? If that's allowed.
Yeah.
Took a picture of it, and they had censored. They had put that stupid gray thing over top, saying flagged it, that this is misinformation.
Yeah.
This is wrong. Okay. And so it's things like that. And dude, I on another thing on Facebook, someone had posted, again, this was probably coronavirus related at the time. Another person posted with PolitiFacts.
Posted with what?
A response using PolitiFacts. You know, the fact checking, another fact check.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just like, you're using PolitiCheck? I mean, do you even know? Do you know who? And I didn't say it in any way, and I'm not angry, but it's just simply, do you realize that what that was? I mean, that'll funnel right into the appeal to authority. Do you even know who those people are? And I do believe it might have been PolitiFacts, or Snopes is a bunch of garbage.
Snopes, I can't stand Snopes. But when you post something and then somebody comes back with a link to a freaking Snopes website, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, oh, just because Snopes said it.
Well, because people don't look up to find out. And this is the fun thing about podcasts, that people just are like, well, podcast is just people talking together. Well, the ones I listen to, this one's called No Mercy. These guys do this all day, every day. And so what you got is people researching, and then they're doing kind of what we're doing. So they'll research stuff and be like, okay, what did you find? All this type of stuff. And so the people running Snopes, they have it's like you and me making Snopes.
Yeah.
You know, and just saying, well, we are this, we tell you what is information and stuff like that, you know? So,
Well,
I don't know.
Part of what's good about what we're doing, and that what was the show you were talking about, No Mercy? Is that what it was?
It's called No Mercy with the podcast,
Yeah, well, I don't know about those guys, but me and you don't get paid to. We just do the research because we actually care about what they're saying and what's going on. Snopes and all these other places are funded. Even some of the big conservative names that, like, people, you talk about conservative podcasts and somebody's like, oh, well, Ben Shapiro's like the gold standard. Ben Shapiro is okay, but just like any of the rest of them, he has his donors. If you talk to him about foreign policy, the only thing he cares about is Israel. So, I mean, he's paid to put out a certain viewpoint no matter what. And that's why I've stopped listening to – what's that?
But see, I think that's a fine thing to do as long as you recognize that. Okay?
As long as they acknowledge it. Yeah.
As long as they acknowledge it. I don't care who backs you, right? But don't hide that fact. If you're being paid by whoever is funding Ben Shapiro, and I've heard that before, I don't really listen. I used to listen to him more when I cared. So I think politics, for the most part, is surface level. This is what we're supposed to see. This is what we're supposed to talk about.
Sure.
You know, the dividing issues that keeps the country apart. So this is what we talk about. But with Shapiro and whoever, I mean, this is his job, man. You know, he's got to make money.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying I care, but the thing is a lot of them will not admit it, and then they, if you bring that up to him, he gets all like offended, like, oh no, this is my personal. It's like, just admit that you're paid to push certain agendas at certain points. Just admit it. Like, once you get to that level, that's going to happen no matter what. You know, people are going to pay for your show, and they're going to be like, hey, look, this is our interest. Say something about it. And as long as you're not opposed to it, like morally, then why wouldn't you? So, but they just don't admit it. But then people just they don't question any of that, and a lot of people don't look into that at all. Who's paying certain people to say what they're saying? They don't look into these things at all.
We get stuck, conservatives with conservatives, liberals with liberals. You know, it's just like, this is a conservative voice, and so therefore this person can do no wrong, and he could never be wrong on a topic. And that's why I think if you stand, let's just use Trump, for example, if you stand behind every one of his decisions and you agree with them, then you there's no way. There's no way, because there's no way a single person is going to agree with everything that every policy or everything that a person says. That's those diehard idiots, and that's what keeps things separated. If Trump does something bad, or you don't agree with his policy, does that we're so of this mindset of love or hate?
Yeah.
You know, instead of just following policy, it becomes about the man. It's like, well, he said this, and therefore, well, how could you follow him? He said this. Well, it doesn't mean I have to agree with him 100%, but let's say this. I agree with him, let's say 80%, whereas your person, I agree with 50%. And so I think that's called fair play. If you agree with someone 100%, you just got a whole bunch of, I support Trump, I support this person, I support this person. And this is the whole idea, dude. Like the whole concept of talk about divide and conquer. They've separated us, these camps of, let's say, liberal or conservative or whatever it is, or Trump follower. In 2016, it was people for Trump, people for Clinton. And it's like, listen, I don't care about the man, and I don't trust the man. You know why?
No.
I've never met him. I don't know him. And guess what?
Nobody thinks like that.
Power.
Yeah.
Well, no, why would you trust him? Why would you trust him? I don't know him. What other stranger or person in power, you know, all this type of stuff would power corrupts, right? Or absolute power. Just stick with power corrupts. The majority of people, I've said this to clients before.
Absolutely.
That does. And why are you trusting in 2016? Why do you trust her?
That's what's so funny. Even both sides. When Democrats. See, this is what's so stupid about the way people think about politics. Everybody openly admits and will tell you that the government sucks, that it's outright, that it's completely corrupt. Democrats will say this, like your liberal neighbor will say this, your conservative neighbor will say this, your atheist will say this, your Christian will say this. The government sucks. It sucks at everything it does. Anything it gets its hands on, it destroys. It becomes a black hole where all our freaking money disappears into. But then their solution to that is to create more government programs. And their solution is
a person in power. Like that's not gonna help.
No.
It's never gonna help.
Yeah, and it's become, like you said, like this cult of personality thing where, like, I like Trump. I voted for Trump, and I'll vote for him again in this year. I'll vote for him. But people just, I mean, he could literally pull his pants down and take a dump on the White House lawn in front of everybody, and there would be conservative pundits that are like, see, what Trump is trying to do right here is show us the decadence of American society. Like Michael Knowles. I like Michael Knowles, but no matter what Trump does, I like him, but no matter what he does, like when he's like, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and I'd get away with it, he's like, what he's actually pointing out here, it's like, no, he just said something stupid, just shut up. Like, nobody wants to admit that, and it's because of this cult of personality. Like, people think that he's like the savior, and it's like, I think he does a lot of good things, and I think he says a lot of good things, but look, Trump has been dealing and rubbing shoulders and buying off politicians in an entire career. So you think he suddenly became a saint the minute he hit the White House? I don't think so.
No.
So,
Trump's a fun topic. He's a real fun topic because you're seeing a lot of stuff from Trump that you just haven't seen before. So, like, I was talking to Dad last night. It was, I'm not going to give you jobs. I'm going to bring the jobs back. So, constitutionally, it's not the president's job, and it's outside of his job to create the job.
Right.
Like, that's not his job. But he didn't say that. He said, I'm bringing them back.
Right.
You go get your own job. I'm just going to make sure that we have jobs here in America, right? And so it's a topsy-turvy thing, and I don't know if I want to get into my premise, my idea. I think that'll be later on. But I think let's just say with Christians, Christians, and I don't care what, Trump said a prayer, Trump says we need to pray, all this type of stuff. His base, he's a Republican base, okay? What do you think he's going to say? I mean, we're always like, oh, good, good, good. Like, the words may be good, guys. Guys, we need to stop and think. Who's saying them, and why would he be saying them? We need to be very skeptical about that type of thing. Again, like I told people, I didn't vote for a saint. I don't care, honestly, how many affairs he's had. I do not care.
No.
If you see that, it's been 3.5 years coming up on 4 years. We've seen enough. Like, now I'm more solid in 2020 to vote for Trump because I've seen what he's done.
Right,
okay? He wasn't cheating in the White House. He cheated before, okay? Not good things. Let's condemn him. It's condemned. It's in the past.
Right.
It holds no relevance now, right? None whatsoever. But it's always, I don't know, dude. With him, it's just, and I want to get into that discussion of just Christianity because you talked about it a little bit last week, like the church.
Yeah.
And that's more the direction I'm moving with because I don't really care. I don't care so much. I don't get angered so much anymore about what regular people, non-Christians, are doing, standing for, saying all this type of stuff because it's like, okay, well, you're coming from a completely other side of the world point of view.
Right. Well, yeah. Right.
When I see Christians holding to those same worldviews, okay, those same worldviews in so many different topics. I'm not going to breach one right now. I think you have the bullet points anyway, but it's just like, that's what's annoying to me. Like, I know people who hear Trump say, oh, you know, he says he's a Christian. What does the Bible say?
Yeah.
That let's just say Satan does not come up as Satan. Satan comes as an angel of light. So he's the master of deception. This man is in power. Okay, this man is in power until the day he gets out of office or has anything to do with politics. Till the day he's done, we should be very skeptical of him.
Right, right.
Let anybody in power. Pick your saint. Pick Reagan, and I could go on about Reagan.
Reagan, another sainted hero of the right.
Saint. That's what it is, a saint. And it's like, no, dude, listen. As long as the government is set up the way it is, where it's unconstitutional, where these people are in positions of power they're not supposed to be, okay? Long as, if someone says he's going to run as president, if this is his idea, you should, especially then, you should be like, there's something fishy about this guy, you know, because that's a position of power that he says he wants to have. You know, that's
that's how this was all set up to in the beginning. Is the politicians were supposed to be servants. They weren't supposed to get paid. I think our senators are paid like $175,000 a year. You were supposed to get paid so little in the beginning when this country was first founded. You were supposed to get paid so little that most people wouldn't want to do it. So that the only people that did want to do it were because they genuinely wanted to serve the country, and they weren't looking at this whole idea of career politicians is crap. You know, that's the problem. People like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, even Mitch McConnell are Republican. All these people, Nancy Pelosi's worth almost $200 million. Chuck Schumer, same thing. Mitch McConnell, over $100 million. Maxine Waters, $80 million. You know, on a salary of $175,000 or less. You know, I don't care how long you've been a politician, that doesn't add up to $200 million of net worth.
No, it doesn't.
You know, that's just crap. You know, so these people are not going into it because they're not staying in the Senate or the House. Nancy Pelosi didn't want to get her gnarled hands on the gavel again because she desperately wants to serve the public. Get out of here. You know, but people believe that stuff.
But again, that is both sides. Like you're saying, that is both sides. And that's the thing that, that I think we're agreeing on. It's hold the same standard for both sides. You know, no matter what. And I'll have discussions with people where it's like, they'll mention Pelosi, but there will be no other Republican. There will not be a single Republican that they mention when it comes to term limits.
Yeah. It's like, there's so many Republicans that you could throw in with they used to call them neocons, you know, but Mitch McConnell, there's so many. Come on, the Republicans and the Democrats are just different sides to the same coin. That's it. You know,
Yes.
that's all it is. You know, I think Dad had a good example about them one time where he said that basically they're at war with each other, and the only time that they stop fighting is when somebody comes and disrupts the game. You know, they're just fighting for power. So when somebody like you or I starts talking about, hey, this is what the game is, then they get pissed off and start looking around. But besides that, they're focused on just fighting for power. Yeah.
My thought on that is just based on, and again, this will be like a different conversation, but just a foundation for where I'm coming from. Like, again, I guess we can get a little into this a bit, because I think we have the same. I mean, as Christians, our premise is there's God, there's Satan. Okay, there's forces of good, there's for evil. Now, this is Satan's kingdom, the earth. Right.
Yeah.
This domain. Okay. So I've had disagreements with Ben on the topic. I believe that Satan, and I talked to Dad about this tonight. I don't believe that Satan wants atheists. Satan, from the very beginning, has wanted to be God. He wanted to be God.
Yeah.
And he still wants to be God here. What does God want from us?
Worship.
He wants worship. He wants us to worship. So an atheist is a passive worshiping of Satan. That's so passive. That's just like, I don't believe in anything, right?
Yeah.
Satan actually wants worship. Okay, so when we talk about deep state and the government and stuff like that, that's why I say it's so surface level, because these are, I mean, if you look at what's going on right now in the country, and we'll get to that, right?
Yeah.
It's a divide and conquer sort of thing. The people at the top aren't Republican and they aren't Democrat.
They don't care.
Okay? But they stitch. I'm not saying that every person in the Senate and Congress and positions, right? Just like it's a pyramid. From the top down, the further down you go, the less these people know, but they're still working for the top. They don't know they're working for the top, right?
Yeah.
So the way things are working, it's like we perceive it as this, like, you know, this person just wants power, this person. I do believe that these people actually do want the power, but when it comes down to, this is no chance thing that's happening here, you know, that you've got these so extreme divides. This has been, like, I don't believe in coincidence. I think that's garbage. That's a lazy thinking, especially as a Christian. As a Christian, it's a lazy way of thinking, 100%, because we talk about God all the time. But how often do you hear about people talking about Satan other than he's tempting me? You know,
the only time people talk about Satan is when they need somebody to push the blame off on for something bad they've done. That's about it, because nobody in the country right now wants to take responsibility for any sins they've committed. They just want to push it off. Oh, the devil made me do it. And then the next day, if they have no sins to push off, then all of a sudden Satan doesn't exist. Yeah, he's just a mythical figure.
Yeah, I don't think Christians, again, I don't care about regular people, but Christians don't acknowledge. That's one thing that really brought me back into this. I was reading Screw Tape Letters.
Yeah.
And it just really emphasized to me, again, that spiritual warfare. So when you sin, you're disobeying God, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that I think is helpful to think about at the same time is it's not just that you're disobeying God. That's bad enough. But you are actually serving Satan.
Right. Yeah.
One of two masters. You either obey God or you obey Satan. If you're disobeying God, you're obeying Satan. You are serving Satan. You are willing, not that you're unsaved or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But it's like, when you think about that, you know, it's like, whoa, that got me into it. Then with all the looking into stuff and the history of just how it has been working through people. Like we're talking about, you know, all that type of stuff. Anyway, I go on tangents, but it's just
I don't know about. I don't get so sucked into like the some people get so obsessed with like the end times and everything. I don't get obsessed with that. I just think that from the beginning, Satan has been working. Look, if Satan wants worship and he hates the church, which that's his enemy, the church, which is, you know, the physical body of Christ here on earth, you know, he's always going to make war on the church. Then what better for him to do that through than a one world tyrannical government, you know? So that's what he's. So when you see all these people working towards it, that's what it is. I believe that he's definitely behind, you know. So I don't know individuals. I'm not going to say George Soros is the Antichrist, but you know, at the same time, these are willing. Right. These are willing subjects in Satan's kingdom. And because they're totally depraved, their natural inclination is to serve him in a sense. They may not think I'm serving Satan, but they're in his kingdom, and because of their totally depraved nature, they see. That's why the number of man is 666, and that's the beast and the mark of the beast and everything, because you're worshiping yourself rather than God. That's like the ancient Greeks said. I think it was Heraclitus. He said, "Man is the measure of all things." That's like the most satanic thing you can say, really.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So. It's not that all these people are all sitting around a table and like discussing how they can kill the Christians and feast on their blood and everything, but it's the fact that they're all totally depraved and in his kingdom, and all it takes is one or two very powerful, wealthy people at the top who are dedicated to that agenda, and the rest will fall in line because of their depraved nature.
100%. Yeah. They're willing subjects, and they're easily used.
Right.
They're easily,
willingly.
And you said it right. There's the top, and it's like, you get into discussion. Well, who are they? Who are they? Who are they? Who are they? If you can't tell me who they are, you don't have any evidence for that. It's like, just historically, there's plenty of that out there.
It doesn't matter.
But to me, 100%, it's George Soros is just a pawn. Rockefellers, because we know their names.
Well, it's all the wealthy elites. What is that group? The Bilderberg group or whatever, that they get together every year and they sit around the table and chop the world up, basically, and make their little plans. These are the wealthy of the wealthiest.
I don't think they're in control, and this is where you get even more spiritual. And it's like, people don't believe all this type of stuff, but that's fine. I know you've probably listened to David Icke before.
Oh, yeah.
And you've probably said similar things. So what he described, again, his premise is wrong, right? His premise, where he starts
I haven't listened to a ton of his stuff. I've heard like 2 interviews.
But his premise is wrong. He's doesn't believe in God, devil, all that. He I think it's probably more New Age, but not New Age. He's different, but he's just called reptilian beings, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. So where he says that, it's like, oh, that's crazy. I don't believe that's crazy. I don't think that reptilian beings are anything alien. I think that again, just like we have no idea how exactly Satan works. The same thing goes for his servants. You don't just have Satan, you have demons. Okay? Yeah. And that I believe they are 100% actively involved. And where you get into Satan worship, they're not conjuring up figments of their imagination.
Right.
They're not just getting high and seeing stuff.
Right.
They're literally, it says in the Bible, don't do these acts of witchcraft, devil worship, all that type of stuff. Not because it's not real. It is real. You are actually actively summoning up these demons. And so who is in control? At the pyramid, at the top of the pyramid, you have Satan, his workers, all this type of stuff. And down flow, I don't doubt that some of the people highest in power are possessed. I wouldn't doubt that for a second.
Why not? Why not? Yeah.
Well, as Christians, we'd be like, well, we don't see those examples in the Bible. It's like, dude,
we do.
No, not exactly like that.
Well, when Jesus came down to earth, there was an enormous amount of demonic activity around the earth. How many demons did he cast out?
But how they're represented, what we've seen demons do in the Bible, right? Well, we've never seen them behave like this, and therefore they don't. The Bible doesn't say that this is Satan's plan, so it can't be. And it's like, no, dude, that's where I think a lot of Christians get things wrong. It's like, well, if it's not in the Bible, it's not there. It's like, no, the Bible has left out so many things. Why? Because the Bible has a message. What's the message of the Bible? What is the purpose of the Bible? God's word.
Right.
To us. It's the message of salvation. Okay? So why didn't he go into tons and tons of deep? What are the Nephilim? Why do we have just a small little section about the Nephilim being here and after sons of man came down, lay with the daughters of, man or whatever?
Yeah, giants.
It gives you that little tidbit, and it's like, well, the Bible doesn't say anything more about it. It's like, well, because there's no point to it.
That's not the point of it.
That's not the message of the gospel, But anyway, I digress. We can get into that because I believe strongly in Nephilim and all that type of stuff. So
okay, well, we'll talk about that in another one.
Yeah, get into the Book of Enoch at some point. Book of Enoch was actually written around the same time. Actually, I think it was written before, and it describes just a little bit more detail of the angels not just having sex with people.
Oh, I've never read the Book of Enoch. I always thought that's the Book of Mormon, isn't it? No.
Oh no.
Where's the book? Is it? It's a stand.
The Bible's in Africa, actually, and if you look at the history of when it was taken out, I can't remember the details.
It's in the Bible. It's in some versions of the Bible in Africa.
Correct. It was there. There was a certain time period. I forget exactly when, but it was in the Bible for a very long time. Then all of a sudden it was taken, and it's like that's a fun topic because I don't know. Like I've gotten this question from clients before. It's like, well, the Bible's just put together by men, put together, not even written, put together. The books of the Bible were put together. Man decided what's in the Bible, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know enough about that.
Well, yeah, I've read about how they did that, put together the Bible and everything. They had councils and everything where the church got together, but in the early times, the apostles recognized from the beginning that, say, the letters from Paul were inspired. They recognized that from the very beginning. So,
in the New Testament, they quote the Book of Enoch.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, I actually have the Book of Enoch at home, and so I could actually bring that out to where they actually point that out, that they're quoting from the Book of Enoch in the Bible that we have now.
Oh wow! No, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
I'll have to read the Book of Enoch now. I'll have to check that out. That's pretty nuts. Yeah, I didn't know that. I always thought it was like, I didn't know it was a standalone book. For some reason, I had it in my mind that it was part of like the Book of Mormon or something, which I do have. But
I don't know if it's in the Book of Mormon, but
I don't think so. Now that you talk about it, I don't think so. But I always thought it was. But anyway, yeah. But
I got off topic there.
No, well, that's what happens. That's what happens. I do the same thing. I just ramble most of the time. I just ramble. But
hey man, I got here at like 6-something last night, and I was done talking. Mom had gone to bed, but I talked to. It was, let's just say it was 7 around. It was 6:30. Like that's when I texted you after. It was like 6:30 to like 10:40.
With Dad.
Just talking. Mom and Dad, but then with Dad after, yeah. Then you get into theology, and we beat predestination to death again.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a favorite. That's a favorite one of his topics, predestination. We could talk about that one too. That's a long conversation. Yeah.
Anyway, that'll be a fun one because I just have never been. We'll get into that some other time.
yeah. That's a hole. That's a hole that will disappear into for like 2 hours. Yeah, easily.
Round and round we go.
Yeah. But I'm not sure how much time they have left on this thing. At the end here, like this doctor, I guess with the lockdowns themselves, though, that they've been doing, do you think that there's any evidence that they have been successful in stopping the virus, even though the lockdowns were? What's that?
I think that's a bunch of crap.
Why do you think that?
Well, I'm gonna have to backtrack. So I'm gonna go off of the premise that there is a virus. Okay. Let's go off of that. So because even doctors who got pulled off of YouTube were saying there's a virus. I'm gonna say I'm going with. I don't believe that's actually true. So let's go. This virus was created in a lab, started out in the United States, moved over to a lab in Wuhan, and somehow it got out just at a very particular time, right after all the Trump stuff. On what a coincidence. And then these riots happen right as things are opening up. Coincidences, people? Okay, well, fine, if you want to go that route. Okay, well, 1 + 1 is 2, folks. Let's just start thinking. But when you look at all that, let's just go with the numbers, okay? Not even the projections that Fauci was coming out with, but the numbers and the information that we know about the numbers, the information that's come out. I don't know what you've looked at in terms of the testing and the codes that they use. Like, have you listened to Andrew Kaufman, Dr. Andrew Kaufman at all?
A little bit.
Yeah, he discusses the tests that don't prove anything, that it doesn't even prove that there is a virus, okay?
Yeah.
But again, with the virus like Rashid Buttar, okay, that there is a virus, that it was created, all this type of stuff. That actually, I don't know, have you heard that people with flu shots actually, even if they didn't have the virus, right, you will find COVID in you, because again, COVID-19 is not like this separate completely, like you have COVID, strands of COVID in you. We don't have to get into the shots right now, but
the vaccines,
yeah, I mean, we could go on for hours about. I could go on for hours about that. But so what we found out is that more and more, more people were infected with no symptoms, with no problems. Okay, what is the number? What is it? It's staggering amount that the people who have died are primarily
70%. Yeah, I know in New York, like 70% of the people that have died have been in nursing homes, 70%. And 60, this is weird, 67 or like 66 or 67% of new infections in New York, Cuomo just said this like 2 weeks ago, have been people that were dedicated to the quarantine and stayed inside. So these are people these are people that took the idea that we should be locked down, hook, line, and sinker, followed it to the T, and 67% of those of new cases are those people. So what does that tell you about the lockdown then? You know?
That's garbage. That is the most unhealthy thing that you can do. Well, if you look at it too, man, I mean, this is what, and I think we had like a back and forth little discussion. So the whole idea of not being loving, if you go outside, if you want to reopen churches, all that type of stuff, right? That's not the loving thing to do, that you need to save lives and stuff like that. Again, a premise that we disagree with entirely, right?
Yeah.
Well, when you look at it, do you understand? I guess people aren't understanding. I mean, the topic of depression and suicide has gone up. Do you know why those things have gone up? Because it's integral to our health to be out with people and socializing. You don't understand, like, people, oh, you just want to go to a bar. I'm sorry. People who say that don't like going to bars, and so therefore they're like, you're not missing out. That's a big part of people's interactions outside of work, where they get to relax, where they get to spend time with people, where they get that healthy sense of community with these people. And so when you're ostracized, right, when you're ostracized from being able to even see the person, it doesn't even have to be in a bar, right? Even over Zoom, dude. I'm sorry. Like, people are going to say, well, you can just do that. You don't understand human beings.
No, I read an article recently where they were talking about how interactions, the difference between interactions on Zoom or whatever and human interactions, your brain, you actually get tired. Your body will get physically exhausted doing this, what we're doing over Zoom, because there are certain ticks, like, I guess, things that your mind automatically subconsciously looks for in a human face, reactions, body language, all that kind of stuff. And your mind is constantly doing this. So when you're face to face with somebody, your mind's doing that. It's reading the other person on a physical level, and you're not, this is subconsciously happening. When you're on Zoom, your body can't do that. Your mind can't do that. So it exhausts itself trying to make up for that stimuli, or whatever you want to call it. So even on that level, it's bad for you. But I mean, just the whole thing to me is just totally dehumanizing. The masks, I mean, you're covering up. People think this is trivial, but you're covering up over half of your face, and then interacting with human beings. The mouth, smiling, and all your facial expressions, that's huge to people interacting.
Most communication is nonverbal.
Right,
no one's going to disagree with that. So when you cut off this whole section right here, and you got my eyes, you can hear my voice, tone of voice, all that type of stuff, right? Nothing so much of the communication. You just are. And that's very important for communication. I know I've heard a lot of what you're saying there, and I don't disagree with it because it makes perfect sense just in terms of human interaction and stuff like that. But yes, those types of things where it's like several, and let's go to the appeal to authority again, because if I mention anybody else, it won't matter. But doctors who say, and you've heard this before, that these lockdowns are going to be more deadly than the coronavirus to people. And that's true.
Yeah.
100%, because it's one of the most unhealthy things that you can do. I was actually just listening to, I forget what the channel was, but he reviews stuff and interviews people. He was interviewing this older doctor, and the doctor said, I'm within the age range. What should have happened was older people, don't go outside. Everyone else, do your stuff. Older people, isolate yourselves. And I know you've heard it. It's like no other time in history has it been the entire population isolate yourselves, shut down everything for these. And now, again, to people who, I'm going to say that it's not using your brain to be like, well, that's just not loving. That's not what Jesus would do. That's not true.
That's not true
That's
at
not
all.
true.
No.
That's not true. And to say things like that, because it always comes with the accusation that you are not being loving, that you are being selfish, that you are being hateful. At the very least, let's be selfish, okay? Which is a big accusation.
Or a murderer. A murderer. You're a murderer. I've heard people say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the extremes right there. But again, I'm taking it from Christians, right? And it's like, if you say something, they say, well, that's hateful, or that response is hateful, or what you're doing is hateful, and it's evil and wrong. And it's just like, do you understand what you're accusing me of?
Yeah.
Do you understand, like, I don't care how you lace it. I don't care how you sugar it up, right, to make it sound not offensive. But you do understand the implications of what you're saying, right? That I'm a selfish human being, that I'm a terrible Christian, that I don't care about other people, that I'm unloving, all these types of things. It's like, yes, people are always like, well, because I've said things and posted things, which.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Hindsight.
I
don't do my best to keep it as because I rewrite it and stuff. When it's like, it's on Facebook, dude. You just might as well not. I'm gonna keep it to this type of thing. I like this because then I can describe everything. Yes, I do think people are not using their brains. So when I post a scarecrow, yes, I do. Okay. Yeah. Does that mean I don't love them? No, because they're looking at me saying thinking the same thing. I'm just saying it. I hold this, I think that as Christians, you can hold other Christians to that account. And so what is our means of doing that? Well, Facebook is a means of communication these days. When it comes down to it, honestly, it's senseless. But I don't know, you just get all this lashing, because again, like I said, I'm going to say it again. A person like me, I am on the Enneagram, right? An 8. I am forthgoing. I say what I think, right?
Right. Yeah.
And this type of thing really, really aggravates me because I'm 30 years old. I'm a kid. I look at stuff and I post it so that people have the information as well.
Right.
Okay? And yet, without all that, I don't think it's wrong to say, and yes, again, you have to consider everybody and whatnot, but again, you need people who are actually like, my personality is like, boom, okay? And it's like, you guys have the access to the information that Peter Hayes has, that Stephen Hayes has, that all the people who have listened to Rashid Buttar, who have listened to Dr. Andrew Kaufman, who have listened to all these you have the access, and you know what you choose to do.
They don't want to hear it.
Yes, but you also continue. You say, nah. I'm going to keep going the main. How many times do we have to show that they're lying before you say, I'm not going to use them as a source?
Yeah.
How many times am I going to do this? How many times as a Christian who's supposed to be, we've boiled down that loving is it in this situation. Loving means this. Why does it mean that? Well, because we were told that this would save lives. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that ignorance is a sin, but I don't think
it's willful ignorance is.
there's a distinction between that. I'm not saying that all people are willfully ignorant. I'm not saying that by any means, dude. And again, with the premise of that the people doing this, I believe that their hearts are in the right places, in that they really do. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, right? That they really do care. And I know many people who do.
Yeah.
Genuinely care, and they want to make sure that they're doing everything they can to take care of us. But we need to use this as well as this.
Yeah.
It's very, very important that we do that. And so when, again, my message comes across much harder, and so I understand the pushback to it.
Yeah, because the media, the one thing the media is very good at is crafting like catchphrases and narratives that are that tug on the heart. So what they tell you is, yeah, this virus is killing people. If you do X, Y, and Z, you'll save lives. So immediately anybody who disagrees with that is selfish and endangering everybody else.
Right.
That's what they've done. They're very good at that. They're very good at it. But all it takes, everybody should just listen to both sides. Even if you don't agree with my side of it or whatever, at least listen to these other doctors before they get deleted. Listen to them. And that should have been a part of that. That's what made me suspicious about this from the start, is there was no extensive, broad opinion. But when we did the lockdown, now people would say there was no time. Anytime you're making decisions for an entire nation based off of fear, there's a problem just on the beginning, as far as I'm concerned. If you're saying we need to do this, and it's some extreme, insane, radical thing where you have to give up liberty and freedom and all that kind of stuff, and the economy is going to crash because of fear, then there's a problem here. We need to hit the brakes, and we need to have 5 guys on this side who have this opinion and 5 guys on this side, and we listen to everybody, then we make a decision. And if it takes 2 weeks, so be it. But they don't do that,
Nobody, I believe, intentionally, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because why else would it be that this side over here is labeled harmful misinformation? I get a newspaper now called the Epoch Times. I'm like, it's like a trial subscription. What's that?
Mom loves it. Yeah, I know who it is. I haven't listened. Read it. I think she did.
Subscribe to him. I get it mailed. I get it mailed to me like a newspaper. But they had a whole thing in there. What's that?
I said I'd prefer a newspaper anyway. I'm just nostalgic. I like newspapers.
That's why I did it. You could have done it digital or paper. I was like, dude, I'd rather hold the thing in my hands, if I'm going to pay for it. But yeah, but they had a whole article in there about all these doctors around the nation who are prescribing enormous levels of vitamin C to combat COVID-19 or whatever. And they're saying openly, they're saying, we do not say that this is a cure. We're not saying this is the magic cure, but what we have found through treating our patients with these big doses of vitamin C is that it has a great effect on them, both in boosting your immune system so you don't get the virus, and B, if you do get it, you fight it off a heck of a lot quicker, So, but then the media, a lot of these doctors have received massive fines from the state or, whoever, the FDA, whatever. I don't know who fines them, but I'd have to read the article again.
Vitamin C. Vitamin C.
Yeah, vitamin C. Yeah.
5 doses of vitamin C.
Yeah. But they were one of them is being charged with malpractice, that and Facebook, YouTube took down any of these doctors' videos, charged that, this is harmful misinformation, and twisted it saying like they were telling people to take vitamin C as a cure. They never said it was a cure. They just said this will help, and we know it'll help because we've prescribed it to some of our patients and it has helped. You would think
we've treated our own patients. We've seen it. We've done it. It works.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you would think if they actually cared about like American citizens that they would say, this has helped people. We understand you're saying it's not a cure, but it's helped people. Let's look into this, but they don't care. They just ban it.
At the very least, because you don't need a doctor to prescribe you vitamin C to take vitamin C. They could say, hey, this is the information we have from some doctors over here. And I'm talking about from the White House. Fauci could have said this, right?
Yeah.
So the whole world can know that, guess what? The natural way is good enough. Funny, isn't it?
They don't want you to know that because there's far too much money in the pharmaceutical industry. That's why you have people that have no knowledge of medicine, like Bill Gates, standing up there jabbering on and on about vaccines. You know, I hope that guy's exposed one day because the stuff I've read about him is insane. You know,
Dude, he's a piece of
medical.
garbage.
He's a monster. Yeah, I mean, he's basically on the same level as Joseph Mengele from Auschwitz. You know, all the experiments he did, the angel of death. Bill Gates, you know, he'd go over there and practice with his medicine over in India and end up sterilizing 400-some thousand girls over there in the poor regions of India.
But it's worth it. It's worth it.
Well,
you know,
it's worth it because it's worth it because those girls in the poor regions of India don't matter in the broad scheme of things. That's how he thinks. That's how he rationalizes it. For people like him and a lot of these people that we're talking about at the top of the pyramid, the way they rationalize it is for the greater good. And anytime you hear somebody say that, you know you're going the slippery road down to hell, basically.
You're straight to hell with that. If we jump on board with that, you're going straight to hell. That's absolutely wrong. Bill Gates is a topic we should talk about later, not now, because, I mean, you look at what just happened. Am I incorrect in saying that Trump just defunded the WHO completely?
Yeah, I heard that.
The second biggest funder of the WHO, guess who?
I don't know.
Bill Gates.
Oh, well,
United States was number one. Bill Gates owns the WHO. Bill Gates has got his little fingers everywhere. And so we really need to question when he makes statements, if we do the vaccines right, we can lower the population by 15%. He said that in front of a crowd of people. He has a history talking about all of this stuff. So it's like, it really should make you question.
Yeah. What's his motive?
This guy who's pushing, and why is he pushing? Things can't reopen until we have a vaccine. Vaccinate everyone. That right there should be like Christians. Listen, wake up.
That means you can't go to church. That means
who could stand behind that? Like Meredith's family, right? Or whoever, pick the family who has said, we have done our research in regards to all this type of stuff, right? Yeah. And we believe that these things are harmful, right? We are not going to do this to our children. Our children.
Right.
Ourselves. Because we believe these things are harmful. We believe enough evidence is there, which it is, right? More than enough. Even there was enough a long time ago just to question it, right? But more than enough that it's mandatory. I don't care if there's a chip in it. I don't even care if there's a chip in it. The fact that people will jump on board, and say, you have to do that, and your kid is not going to hang out with my kid unless they're vaccinated. Like, we will not be friends unless you are vaccinated. You will not come in this house. We will not go. You cannot come in that theater. You cannot go here or there unless you're doing that. Mandatory. What? Like, what? Have you seen Zoolander?
Of course.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil. But it's like, guys, like, that right there should raise flags for literally everyone. I don't care if you believe vaccines are safe. The fact that he's saying it will be mandatory, you will be tracked by it. Do you know HR 6666? I'm sure you've followed that.
I've heard of it, yeah.
There's a bill proposed by a Democrat, go figure, that basically says that we can enter houses, test you in the house, if we find that you have COVID, we can remove you or your children.
Yeah.
It was like, guys, if you think that's not out there, look it up. I looked it up right away. Like, I heard Rashid Buttar talk about it. I didn't just stop and say, well, he said it, so must be true, and that's where you'll get a lot of times. Well, you just listen to somebody else. No, I got to look it up to make sure it's true. I looked it up immediately. It might have been 30 seconds afterwards. But I looked up the bill. You can find it on the government website.
And you read it and everything? Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what it says.
Like, if he's BS, then I want to know. Right?
Well, yeah, sure.
And it just really like, guys, who in their right mind, for safety, you're going to sacrifice everything because you're so scared? You know whose responsibility it is to take care of their family, to take care of themselves? That is the parents. It is your responsibility, Peter, to take care of your family. It is my responsibility to take care of my family, not the government, not anybody else's. It's my responsibility. But what we do is we shook it off. Well, we have these doctors, and they're the authority, and therefore, well, I'm going to just, because it's so much work and I don't have the time to research all that type of stuff. If you're sitting and watching Netflix as a parent and you haven't done your research before going into a lot of serious decisions about your kids, you do have the time. And what is more detrimentally important than your family's health and well-being? Also, truth.
Nobody cares about that anymore. Nobody cares.
In the importance of truth?
No, they don't. Well, actually, on a certain level, we'll have to go off onto. We could do a whole episode on truth because, I mean, what do you mean by truth? You know, like Pontius Pilate said, what is truth? You know, what is it anymore? You know, that's why I think there's so many different levels that whole pyramid thing goes off into, because I think that a lot of what's going on today, and we're probably going to run out in a few minutes here, but anyway.
Did you send one link or more than one?
What's that?
Did you send one link or more than one link?
I just sent one for today, but I don't know if this thing's just going to suddenly cut off out of nowhere or whatever. So
I say send another one because we still have to talk about the current events. With the big boom.
Well, yeah. I mean, we could do that this coming week, though. Like, you know, I mean, just break it off into multiple episodes. Because if we just string this out as like several hours, then nobody's going to sit through the whole thing. You know?
Yeah, that's fine. That can be a different topic unto itself. Maybe
well, I mean, we talked about like several different things today, so that's like a good opener for like a broad idea of like the stuff we'll talk about. You know. That way anyone who does listen to it can be like, oh, they're going to go here, here, and here. But, and this is kind of what I'm talking about with that, is you were talking about the pyramid and how that all the different levels, I don't think, and you, like you said, there's no such, you don't believe in chance. I don't either. Everything from our or coincidence, right? Our education system is another whole part of it, and the way they've used it to basically brainwash and what's the word? Just brainwash children.
Program.
So program indoctrination. So that the idea of truth, because the Bible's been stripped away and God's been thrown out of the picture, there is no objective truth. Everything's just your truth or my truth. Your view is just as valid as mine. We're both right, even though you say the sky is blue and I say it's red. We're both right, you know, just because that's your truth and my truth. You know, that screws. That's like so fundamental. If there's no objective truth, then how do you even have a conversation about what is going on in the country or what's going on in the church? You can't. That's a huge...
tell me murder is wrong. You can't tell me murder, rape, theft. You can't tell me any of those things are wrong, because the people who they'll say, you know, your truth, unless you're hurting someone. Well, what do you mean? Why is that a standard?
It's like, not.
I think it's perfectly fine because of evolution, survival of the fittest. I believe in evolution, so it's just fine because this gets me ahead. This gets me ahead. I believe that's right. If you don't like it, well, then don't go kill someone and don't steal. But I'm going to do it.
Right. Well, look, if you're not made in the image of God, then it doesn't matter what happens to you. And if I was to take a gun and shoot you, what difference does it make whether I shot you or the squirrel that was running past you 2 seconds ago? You're just a more evolved species than the squirrel is, but we're both evolved and we have no intrinsic value in and of ourselves. So who cares? Why is rape wrong? Who says it's wrong? You say it's wrong, but who are you? You know?
Yeah, who are you? Why? Well, we need a society to be able to function. Yeah, well, maybe I don't agree with that.
That's a bunch of garbage, because
that's true.
That's the majority view of truth, basically, where we just all get together. We're basically good people, so if we all get together, that's really, because Nazi Germany was that's a modern society there. it wasn't all that long ago. They're modern, they were cultured, they had their religious institutions and everything, but they wanted to decide that the normal rules didn't apply to them. And look what happened there. And look what happened in the Soviet Union, another cultured, these people were well educated. These were not barbarians. They had electricity. They have all the modern conveniences that basically we have today, except for a cell phone. And look what, the normal rules didn't apply to the new Soviet man and the 15 million of Stalin's own people he butchered and murdered and raped and whatever. So, if you remove that objective thing, you have no basis, and the society just completely crumbles. And that's actually what's happening today. That's exactly what we're seeing today, is the beginning of the bottom breaking out, and everything just falling through, and if they don't do something soon, then it's going to get crazy.